just is that question mark as to why Labour didn't win in Uxbridge. According to the local Conservative candidate, and I think Labour largely accept this analysis, it was to do with the local issue of the extension of the low emission vehicle zone to outer London boroughs. But Labour still have to ask themselves, well, why is our hold on the electorate apparently so weak that when an issue like that comes along where the Conservatives end up attacking us, in this case it was Sadiq Khan and the Labour Mayor's proposal, that we don't perform as we should. So there's a question there for Labour.
Well, what does last night tell us, to the extent that it does send a clear message? What does it tell us about the salience of green issues? Because on the one hand you have this ULEZ, this low emission zone, which possibly costs Labour in Uxbridge, and would have been a very significant victory if they won that seat, as Boris Johnson previously. But on the other hand, the Green Party had a thoroughly decent night, didn't they?
They did indeed. Indeed, in Somerton and Frome, despite the Liberal Democrat advance there, they recorded their best share of the vote yet in the parliamentary by-election at 10%. I think perhaps, one of at least the subtext of these by-elections is that the politics of the environment, of which obviously climate change is a crucial part, is perhaps becoming more salient for some voters, and that therefore, yes, in somewhere like Uxbridge, where this is a particular issue affecting people who are in older cars or to carry on driving them, and they're going to take the anti-environmental stance. But then equally elsewhere in more rural parts of Selby and Somerton, the Green message has apparently had some resonance. And in the opinion polls, frankly, the Greens are consistently registering 5-6% of votes. So this issue is still bubbling away, and for some voters at least, is making them depart from the choice they might otherwise make.
We've thrown forward a bit to the general election. There's always a limit to the extent to which you can interpret by-election results as
this is M6 tolls,
forecast, but as predictors of general election results. Let's just actually go back in terms of historic comparisons. How do these by-election results work?
They don't
look very comfortable.
I have a bipper.
The last time the Labour Party managed to record over a 20% swing from the Conservatives was in the 1992 to 97 Parliament. The last time the Democrats chalked up 4 by-election victories over the Conservatives in Parliament was also the 1992 to 97 Parliament. The last time we saw quite consistent evidence of anti-Conservative tactical voting in by-elections was in the 92 to 97 Parliament. Those 3 precedents, history's not bound to repeat itself, but those 3 precedents are an indication of the difficulty that the Conservatives face unless they can turn things around in a way that John Major was unable to do so.
Professor Sir John Curtis, thank you.
Let's turn then to the Liberal Democrats. We're going to be hearing incidentally from Labour's Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, about 7:30. I've been speaking to the Lib Dems Deputy Leader, Daisy Cooper.
Well, it's a fantastic result for the new MP for Somerton and Frome, Sarah Dyke, and of course for the Liberal Democrats. And we're absolutely delighted with the win. We heard time and time again from voters across that constituency, including lifelong Conservative voters, that they are sick and tired of being taken for granted. So this result for us really shows that the Lib Dems are back in the West Country.
And how many seats do you now think you could do the same?
Well, in the West Country alone, there are around 15 seats with smaller majorities than the one that we've just overturned. There are seats like, Chippenham and Cheltenham and Taunton Deane and places like that we're really going to be targeting. But amongst those 15 seats, we're going to look at the result that we've had just tonight and this morning, and we'll be looking at what other prospects there might be for us in that area.
You need, don't you, in those seats, tactical voting, much easier in a by-election where people are very clearly focused on what the contest is about. Can you really, in a general election, persuade lots of Labour voters to lend their vote to you to stop the torrent?
Well, as you know, I'm the MP for St Albans, and we won St Albans in 2019, and in part that was because there were lots of Labour and former Labour and Green voters who lent their vote to me, and as a result we were able to beat the Conservatives. So it has been done in a general election, and we hope very much that we can do that at the next general election as well.
The key question at the next general election, I think, is what is your party actually for, other than kicking the Conservatives who you previously spent 5 years keeping in office?
If you look at our track record over the last 2 to 3 years, we have been leading and winning the battle of ideas. We were the first party to propose a windfall tax on oil and gas companies who couldn't afford their energy bills. We were the first party to call for the energy price hike to be scrapped in the autumn, which then happened by the Conservative government. We were the first party to call out the scandal of sewage being pumped into our rivers with complete impunity. I think people around the country know that when they vote for a Liberal Democrat, they're voting for a hard-working local champion for their area.
But they are no longer able to say they're the pro-European party that would reverse Brexit.
Well, we are a pro-European party. We're internationalists by our very nature. But the by-election
You wouldn't reverse Brexit.
the by-election that we just had, people were talking about the
You
cost of
wouldn't
living
reverse Brexit.
crisis. The election we had last night, people were talking about the cost of living crisis.
Sure, but the
and
question was,
crisis in
would you
our
reverse
NHS.
Brexit?
Liberal Democrats have a 4-point plan on how we want to build a closer relationship between the UK and the EU, and that starts with fixing these appalling trade deals that are absolutely crushing the hopes and dreams of our farmers, of our
After
small businesses.
800 yards,
There are
keep
real problems
right.
that small businesses and farmers and individuals are facing as a result of this botched deal, and that's what we get sorted first.
Very brief final thought. Do you accept that after the Brexit
Keep
referendum,
right.
after you're on keeping the Conservatives in power in the coalition, many voters have no idea what you stand for?
Well, it's by coming on shows like this that Liberal Democrats can talk about our values. We're environmentalists, we're internationalists, we're pro-business, we're pro-public service, we are pro-equality. These are the things that we stand for, but as I say, when people vote for the Liberal Democrats, they know they're getting a hard-working local champion for their area.
Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, congratulations on your victory. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
From Liberal Democrats to Conservatives, because one consequence of the huge swing to the Lib Dems in the Somerton and Frome by-election is that there will be a long list of nervous Conservative MPs looking over their shoulders, and among their number might well be Stephen Hammond, MP Conservative for Wimbledon, who had a majority of just 628 over the Lib Dems at the last election.
Great to be a
Hammond, good morning.
politician. Because they keep asking you
Thank you very much
questions
indeed for
and you
joining
have
us
to do sort
this
of
morning. Why did your
bullshit
party have such a
politics
bad
after.
night?
Yeah, it's a mixture of
Well,
politicians.
these by-elections, the context is certainly...
Those reporters try and
really
trip you up all
challenging.
the time.
They were
That's
hard
their job.
and we had a huge number of people going out and taking out
She did
the
all right.
message.
She
We had a great result in
stuck
Uxbridge
with the
last night, and very
message about one of the
disappointing results in Selby
a little bit too
and
long.
in Somerton, where we had
But then
great
she
candidates.
realised she got
But
a script
I think
ready
in particular in
about
Selby, as several
close-knit
people already
relationship
mentioned
with
on
the EU,
various
which is
BBC
much more
shows,
what to
the
use.
context of one of my colleagues decided to resign so quickly was really unhelpful and really not welcomed by local electors, and as you just pointed out, there may well have been some tactical voting in Somerton and Frome,
Right.
and another colleague who hadn't been around for a year. So the backdrop was challenging nationally. We fought these elections hard, and these are, to be fair, by-elections.
Sure. I think you just said, Mr. Hammond, that you had a great result in Uxbridge. What does it say about Rishi Sunak's administration that hanging on to Boris Johnson's old seat by a few hundred votes after a recount is something you consider a great result?
Yeah, well, let's just put this in context, shall we? When I arrived at the BBC programme last night, everybody told me why we were talking about 3 by-election losses. I was there yesterday and I saw that the Conservative vote held in a lot of places and people wanted to go out and vote Conservative. I think that the reason why I think it was a good result is we had a good candidate, we fought it hard. I think it brought up a particular issue around the whole of England, particularly in my part as well. It's an issue, and I think it's a good result because everybody told me we were
Okay.
going to lose it.
The Lib Dems have got you in their sights, haven't they? And they've got a bit of momentum because of what's just happened in Somerton and Frome. What are you planning to do now about the incoming attack from the Lib Dems on people like you?
Well, I respect all my opponents, but I don't fear any of them. And I think if you look at the context of Wimbledon, the Lib Dems came second in 2019, but they came third in 2017 and 2015. And I know that the attack is likely to come from both Labour and both Liberal Democrats. I don't think that in quite the same way as perhaps some of the other seats, my seat is in that context.
There's a talk
would
with
make 3 points. One is, I think, the Sunak 5 pledges, Rishi Sunak's 5 pledges.
No
are the right
cash.
pledges for this country.
Can't
Everybody
inflate
talks
it.
about a cost of living crisis, but the reality is, if you start cutting inflation, if you get the economy growing, you pull the debt down, that's going to help
Why
with
is
the
it
cost of living
faster?
crisis and energy prices again.
Yeah, it's yes,
I'm
you
going to
don't
concentrate on local matters as well. There are a number of things. We've got a great new investment in local health coming because of the result of the Conservative government. And I'm also going to concentrate on the fact that I have had the honour to represent Wimbledon for the last 18 years, and local people knew, just as they knew in 2019, that they have an experienced local member of Parliament who is their voice in Westminster, rather Westminster's voice back to Wimbledon.
Yeah, the thing is, Henry Hill, who's a deputy editor of Conservative Home, who was on about half an hour ago, just said that basically Mr Sunak is failing on all his 5 pledges and should concentrate on 2 that he can actually win. I'll just ask you one question about green taxes. Would you now be wise, given the Lib Dem threat, to campaign against green taxes, or what one of your recent Conservative Prime Ministers called, I think I would say, green crap?
Well, they may call it what they like, but I think the key thing about what I hear from my voters and I hear from colleagues around the country is that voters are clear that they want to see governments that promote green policies because they recognise the future of this country.
Right.
And there may well be times when it's maybe happening speed too fast, but people want to see those things in place.
Stephen Hammond, thank you very much for joining us.
21 minutes past 7. What then of Labour? A big victory to celebrate, certainly, but a big disappointment to ponder on too. The question this morning, for those looking for a guide to what might happen at next year's general election, is whether that Conservative win in Uxbridge is a blip caused by a very local row about new looming green taxes on driving a polluting car or a van into London, or a warning to Labour that there might still be a way back for Rishi Sunak. The journalist Paul Mason is hoping to be a Labour candidate at the general election and campaigned for his party in Uxbridge. And has been tweeting about it this morning. Morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Nick.
What does that result tell the Labour Party?
It's not just a local play. I backed Keir Starmer for leadership because I knew that Keir could turn things around in 5 years, the worst defeat since 1935. To get back into power within 5 years, we were going to have to do a lot of things. And one of them is to reconnect with people who live in a place like Uxbridge. And although we nearly did last night, it turns out that this issue of ULEZ, the ultra-low emission zone, where you have to, if you have an old car, you have to buy a new one, and there is a scrappage scheme, but it's not very generous, turned out to be something that local people cared about, and I think the Conservatives managed to turn it into not just a single issue, but a multi-issue. It's about the kind of place you live in. It's a hard-pressed suburban working-class community. It's about local democracy. The local council of Gillingden is against the scheme. So this is not a single issue. It's a lot of issues wrapped up, and I think we as a party have to learn from it, be really glad, a fantastic night, but go forward and seal the deal with people such as the voters who live in Uxbridge.
Yes, I can hear your colleagues saying, but there aren't many places like Uxbridge, and there aren't many places that are worrying about that sort of new green scheme, and therefore we should just concentrate on Selby and say, huge victory there for the Labour Party, don't worry about Uxbridge.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm delighted for Selby, and I'm actually gutted for the candidate in New Uxbridge who fought, and the party and the candidate fought a great and exemplary campaign. But what we've got to do is seal the deal with all parts of the British electorate, because we have very difficult things to do. We need clean energy by 2030. We need to transform the economy of this country in a green direction. But there are winners and losers, and you have to think carefully both about how you present that and how you mitigate the winning and losing. And the party itself is at the stage of going from aspirations, clean energy by 2030, to hopefully a plan for actually.
Why is it only on that side and not
You
this
morning
bit
said
further
not
down?
winning there is a blow for Labour, and you said we'll show Sunak a route back. Spell out what you fear, what you
So who
predict
gets the money for that? The government or the local authority? The company that built the M6 tunnel.
I think he has a route out, and I'm delighted to
Do they have to pay the
hope
government
this
money to
speeds
build
up
the toll road?
when he
I
decides
don't think
to
so.
take
I think they paid
But,
to the cost of the construction
you
of the
asked me,
road.
is
And its
Uxbridge
maintenance.
unique? No, it's not. There are plenty
They
of
have to pay a
towns,
tax bill,
suburban working
don't
class
they?
towns that have the same problem.
Like any
And if I was a
company,
Tory
yes.
strategist, I'd be saying,
They'll have to pay
what
a
works
corporation
for
tax.
us? So we took an
probably
issue
VAT on the toll as well.
like ULEZ. We made it into a woke style issue, and we wrapped up a lot of enmity into it. Now, those of us who were on the doorstep in 2019 know how that works, despite exemplary campaigning. And I think, therefore, Labour's got this big conference this weekend. We've got to make sure that our economic and green policies are both radical and redistributive. That is, they redistribute wealth and power.
don't know.
Morning. A few bits for you to watch
Oh,
out
hi,
for.
ma'am.
Barnum Hill, Barnum Road leads to the
Didn't know if
Birch
you were
Street Pub.
sleeping.
Automing right there, so temporary traffic lights are in place. They should be finishing today though. In Scrap Top Brook Road near to Briar Road, roadworks there, temporary traffic light.
I don't know if you were sleeping or not.
Angela Rayner, Labour's Deputy Leader, was listening to you in Westminster and will join us shortly after 7:30, and we'll be hearing from the Conservative Party Chairman after 8:10.
For now, let's get on the business with Flips. Morning again, Flips.
Morning, yes. The head of the UK competition regulator has told this programme it has still very serious concerns over Microsoft's $69 billion takeover of the game developer Activision Blizzard.
Oh, that's going to go ahead anyway.
The chief executive of the Competition and Markets Authority, said
Everyone else in the world has
deal would
agreed
have to
at this
satisfy
point.
those worries.
Our decision to prohibit the transaction still stands. We identified very serious concerns about cloud gaming and the impact that deal would have on the market, and those concerns would need to be fully resolved by any new transaction structure.
So just to recap, the CMA
No, they won't,
blocked the
because
deal,
Microsoft
which
said
would
if they
have
keep
taken
taking
over
the
maker
piss,
of
they're just going
games
to
like
pull
Call of
business
Duty and
products
World
out
of
of the
Warcraft.
UK and
It says
make
it
it
could
just
look
turn
at
off
a
the
restructured
give a fuck
offer.
about the
Now, the
UK.
EU has approved the deal. US officials, just in the last few hours, have withdrawn their case to block it. Let's talk to Alice Enders, who's head of research at Enders Analysis. Now, Alice, the worries here are about cloud gaming in this emerging market. What is the issue?
So the issue is really about preserving consumer choice and preventing exclusivity. So for example, Microsoft could make Call of Duty exclusive to its operating system. And bearing in mind that Microsoft signed 10-year licensing
Bear in mind
agreements
Sony and all of the
with
console makers do
Sony
the same thing.
just on Sunday for those Activision games. But the idea is that, you know, because we've got, you know, console, PC, and then cloud, and so the idea is that you could, for example, you know, basically build an exclusive cloud gaming platform that would only be accessible to those that would buy Microsoft technology or services and so on. These are subscription services, and they're, you know, it's like the Netflix for gaming, if you like.
So what do you think ultimately could happen? Will the takeover get waved through in the UK?
So definitely, I think what Sarah said this morning is it will not be waved through in the UK, absent you know, a new notification, a new investigation that will take weeks and months. The parties have appealed the original prohibition to the Competition Appeal Tribunal. That also is going to take some time. So, you know, it looks like the UK is sort of an island, if you like, in terms of being out. You know, the deal is still prohibited here, but it looks like it's going ahead all the way around the UK. So it's pretty hard to tell right now what will emerge from all of this. But clearly, the parties are being invited to resubmit an entirely new structure, and I think the issue is really around the exclusivity of Activision games on the cloud gaming platform that Microsoft already has.
Alice Enders, head of research at Enders Analysis, thank you very much indeed.
Please, thank you. 28 minutes past 7. We do actually pay Gary Richardson to stand on the open golf course. Here he is. Morning, Gary.
Not as much as you. Good morning, Nick.
Oh, I deserve that.
Welcome to Hoylake, second day of the Open Golf Championship. It's underway. What a day of sport ahead. Yeah, you're right, Nick. How lucky am I? Just up the road, England lead Australia by 6 to 7 runs after 7 balls, 189. Here at Hoylake, Tommy Fleetwood has a share of the lead. Scotland's Matthew Stewart 2 behind. We featured the local lad yesterday, Matthew Jordan.
Say no on this.
Well, near the top of the leaderboard. He's 3 off the lead. I watched him play the final hole. And here, on the 18th, Matthew Jordan leads the short putt.
Where Jenny is.
And it's in. Matthew Jordan, congratulations. What a fantastic round.
Yes, brilliant. Obviously with all the emotions and the occasion and everything involved, to then kind of play like I did, I didn't hit many ropey shots at all, and play the course like I know I can was really self-satisfying.
You hit the very first tee shot, so obviously there were nerves. It was at 6:35 in the morning, and you walked on to the tee, and the announcer made the announcement.
This is game number 1. On the tee from England, Matthew Jordan.
What time did we leave? She wants to know.
Just make sure you hit it properly.
About 6:45.
When I'm under pressure, one is to commit to it, and two, I just had one swing thought.
In Cudworth, an accident has been reported on Litchfield Road at Faraday Avenue, and we need to take a look at public.
You can tell him we're on M6 toll, that helps.
Running towards the top of the leaderboard. Fantastic.
Yes, of course. If I can play this course the way I can do, and the way I have at times when I've been practicing here, I can do good scores.
And the clubhouse is just behind us. You're just about to go and meet Mum and Dad.
Yes, I've got to go and speak to them, see how they feel. I think they'll be proud of me, and they'll be really pleased. So it'll just be great to see them smile and just see their faces and kind of reminisce on a couple of certain holes.
And here are the family. Andy, what did you make of that?
It was astonishing. The support, the crowd, the atmosphere, absolutely fantastic. I can't put any other words to it.
What about Mark, Laura?
He's been very comfortable growing up here. He joined us junior at 7. All his friends still play here, so he'll come and have a knockabout with them on a Sunday morning. That's the thing that drives him really, is having all that local support and the friends around him really boosts him.
An excellent performance.
You ready to be an old man?
Bass players doing well. Rory McIlroy, though, has work to do.
Yes, he does. Michael Stewart, as you said earlier, superb for his 68 yesterday. Matt Jordan's 2 under. He was joined on that mark by Ollie Wilson very late on yesterday. Matt Southgate's out on the course actually at the moment. He's 1 over after 3 holes so far, and McIlroy still very much in it. I think it was vital that he got up and down from that bunker in such dramatic fashion last night at Level Park.
What about Tommy Fleetwood? How do you see it? Top of the leaderboard.
Great start yesterday, just 1 drop shot. He really rode the emotion of the crowd. They were right behind him. He'll be looking to do that again today. A very poignant day today for Tommy Fleetwood. It's the first anniversary of the death of his mother, but he looks in the mood, looked very good yesterday.
Ian Carter, thank you very much. Ian will be back with us in an hour's time. Do tune in to him and all the other commentators. A great programme on 5 Live. Tom Watson is going to be my special guest as well, a 5-time Open champion in 8.25. Cricket I mentioned, well, fantastic. England 3-8-4. They lead Australia by 67 runs after Zach Crawley's 189. Test match special starts at 10. The tips. Haydock 3:15. Number 7. It's a horse called Nebworth. And then at Newbury 4:45. Look out for number 10. It's Palmer Boy.
Let's just hope it doesn't rain too much in Manchester to stop England winning. Thank you, Gary.
The greatest names in women's football are back playing on the world's biggest stage. And the fans will be out in force. The nail-biters, the chanters, the ones who can't bear to watch. The sofa tacticians, the fist pumpers, and the ones who can't sit down. This game belongs to all of us. The Women's World Cup. Watch on iPlayer, listen on BBC Sounds.
Quick look at the weather now. Quite a lot of rain at Old Trafford. It looks like over lunchtime, at least. Cloudy for most to start today with a few isolated showers. More of those showers in the afternoon.
There is plenty of news, of course, beyond the world of UK politics, and coming up on this programme, NatWest Group boss Dame Alison Rose has apologised to Nigel Farage regarding comments made about his suitability as a customer of Coots, which is owned by the NatWest Group. We'll have the latest reaction on that, and also I'll be speaking to the mother of Olivia.
You're listening to Today at BBC Radio 4 with Amal Rajan and Nick Robinson at 26 minutes to 8. Jane Steele has a summary of the news.
The Conservatives have suffered 2 heavy defeats but have narrowly held on to Boris Johnson's home seat in light of 3 dramatic by-election results. In Somerset, the Liberal Democrats overturned a majority of more than 19,000 in Somerton and Frome and said the result showed the party was firmly back in the West Country. Labour has hailed an historic win, overturning a majority of more than 20,000 to take the Yorkshire seat of Selby and Ainsty, but it was disappointed as the Tories held Uxbridge and South Ruislip.
So instead of swiping your card on the thing, it does it for you. Yeah, when you open an account, you register a
In
credit
other
card
news,
with it.
some NHS staff in England say they're not receiving an extra one-off payment awarded by the government as part of the latest pay deal for health workers. More than 1 million staff members are eligible for a lump sum of at least £1,600 on top of the 5% pay rise. The issue affects some staff as an internal agency which provides temporary cover for hospitals. The India has banned shipments of most white rice in a move which is likely to impact global food markets. Domestic prices have increased by 3% in the month after heavy monsoon rains damaged crops in parts of the country.
The French ones tend to
Amsterdam
have
is
more
closing its major cruise ship terminal on the outskirts of the city centre.
With this one, you have to go either
not in line with
completely
existing
to one side or
regulations.
completely to the
It is
other.
the latest measure to limit mass tourism in the Dutch
Necessarily
capital.
that convenient sometimes, but
Government
anyway.
is facing more pressure to allow the Parthenon sculptures to be returned to Greece, with a poll suggesting almost 2/3 of people in the UK would support the move as part of a cultural exchange. The British Museum says talks with Greece about the sculptures, originally known here as the Elgin Marbles, are ongoing and constructive. After nearly a quarter of a century, the National Trust has completed its longest-running conservation project. The charity began work to restore 13 tapestries from the 16th century at Hardwick Hall in Derbyshire in 1999. They go on display to the public on today.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. 24 minutes to 8. Let's go straight to that lead story and to Angela Rayner, Labour's Deputy Leader, who joins us now. Miss Rayner, good morning.
Good morning.
So you overturned a majority of 20,000 in one Tory seat, that was Selby and Ainsty, but didn't overturn a much smaller majority of 7,000 in another seat, which was Uxbridge. How do you explain that?
Well, Selby was a historic, great result for us, and we acknowledge that that was a fantastic victory, but we're not taking anything for granted. But I think also Uxbridge shows you that we've still got more work to do, and it also shows you that obviously ULEZ was a major issue in that by-election. I mean, there's no getting away from that. If you look at the results in the 3 by-elections, it's pretty clear that that had an impact on the vote.
And what did you get wrong in Uxbridge?
I think the main problem is that people are really concerned about how during the cost of living crisis, where the Conservatives have seen household bills skyrocket, that they're going to be imposed with a ULEZ charge that they can't afford, and there isn't a scrappage scheme from the government that will enable them to change their behaviour. People want to have clean air and people want to comply with ULEZ. The problem is that there isn't a scrappage scheme that gives people the compensation and the ability to change their vehicle, and that's the crux of it, and people are concerned about that. They can't afford it.
But isn't the issue in terms of why it cost you? I hear what you're saying about people's concerns, but in terms of why it cost you the chance for a 3-0
So now we
clean sweep,
rejoin the IMC.
isn't the truth that Labour's position was incoherent? People didn't know what circular Starmer stood for, and they refused to take a side.
So how do you do
It
the
was a
normal
local
part of the
issue,
road?
and the fact is, it's a single issue race in a community that really likes to drive.
This is the normal part of the road we're coming up to now.
No,
I mean, that bit back there.
It was a massive missed
I
opportunity.
don't understand your question.
Do you have to go through the toll, or is there a non-toll part?
No, you have to.
Issue, by the way, which will be an issue for them as well.
That makes
they're
its money.
incumbent and they're refusing,
This motorway is
as the
just
Mayor of
toll
London
though.
has asked for,
Yes,
is for
it's not.
the correct
We are coming up to the
scheme so that we
M6
can
now.
implement ULEZ
So if you
in a way
wanted to
that
skip the
changes
toll, how
behaviours
would
and
you
gives
do it?
people
Would you go for a
opportunity
different road?
to get a clean,
Yes, you just
clean
follow the ordinary
vehicle.
M6.
They won.
What we're about to do.
You could have had Boris Johnson's
They
old
narrowly held on
Sure, but they
to
won.
their seat.
You could have had,
You'll see this something
this
else.
morning as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party saying we won 3 by-elections last night.
the
We've
toll
got
for
Boris
lorries is
Johnson's
one.
old seat. We've actually got 2. And the fact is, on a big issue in a single constituency, your position was incoherent, wasn't it? People didn't know what you stood for.
Well, we won one historic victory in Selby, which, it was a fantastic result for us. We narrowly missed out on gaining Uxbridge, and ULEZ was an issue on the ground. Even the Conservative candidate has acknowledged that ULEZ was the issue. And I think people have seen the cost of living has gone up, and they've seen that there isn't the support for them, and we've got to accept that, and we've got to work
come
to
off
push the
here and start heading
government,
towards
and
the
if we
hill.
want to be in government next time, to look at how we can do the right thing, because climate change is a problem, emissions and clean air is a problem. It's not just a London problem, it's coming to towns and cities across the UK. It's an issue that both the Conservatives and Labour are going to have to get on board and find a way of resolving, so that we can do the right thing, but also that we're not penalising people who can't afford because we've not
That green air thing isn't coming to towns
to help them
across
change
the
the behaviour
UK.
and change the vehicle.
I should correct myself, sorry, I got it wrong. It's not that you would have woken up with 3 wins, because obviously the Lib Dems had a big win in 73. I'm glad you're laughing at that point. That's my error for which, sorry. Is one lesson, you mentioned climate change, is one lesson from today that while the Green Party had a good plan for them, and while ULEZ was an issue that was maybe targeted at a very particular group in a very particular community, perhaps many green policies are just not that popular. We do have a government who
Clean up this piece of motorway for a long time.
they're pledging to explore North Sea oil and gas, and as you say, ULEZ might well have cost you an Uxbridge. perhaps there's a lot of voters saying actually we don't like this green stuff.
I don't accept that. I think what people want to see is a fair transition to, greener energy, and it's also a security matter. We need to be resilient and have our own energy, and we've got great British energy and policy that we're putting forward that will allow us to meet our net zero targets by 2030 and will enable us to put skilled jobs around the UK, but also tackle the climate crisis. I don't think it's an either or. It's not binary in that regard. You can't ignore it. You can't stop the world and get off. There is a problem. We know that there's a problem, and we've got a solution to resolve it. But that means giving people the opportunity to change their behaviours, creating the jobs for the future, and not looking backwards to to oil that is not going to meet our targets in that respect. We've got a programme that will tackle the climate crisis and create those jobs for the future, and that's what people want to see, not being penalised in a way that they can't afford to do the right thing. People want to do the right thing. They just need to be on that journey that enables them to take part in that and not be penalised for it.
I'm mindful of any questions that are too inside baseball, but do you think you should have managed expectations in Uxbridge a bit better? I mean, you did let expectations run absolutely rampant about the possibility of taking Boris Johnson's off seat, and then yesterday it suddenly dawned on a lot of people in the Labour Party that actually you might not win.
Well, look, I mean, I was on the ground in Uxbridge. I mean, we had a fantastic candidate there, Danny, and there was thousands of activists that were on there. The idea that we didn't know that there was an issue on user licences for the birds, we did know that, and we know that there's an issue that both the Conservatives and Labour are going to have to tackle, and that's pretty clear from that result. But we narrowly lost on what was a Conservative seat. It's disappointing that we didn't get over the line, but we know there's work to do. We're not complacent, regardless of the historic win we had in Selby, and we're going to move forward, putting an alternative, credible plan forward so we can have the change at the next general election.
Angela Rayner, Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, thank you very much indeed. Chris Mason, if you were Keir Starmer this morning, top people in Labour, how will they be interpreting what happened in Uxbridge and how they should read across from that to the general election?
I think what you heard there, Howell, was Labour's post-mortem in Uxbridge. What you're hearing in private is a rather sharper analysis, which is one that if you go into a by-election,
is he stalking a candidate?
You can see as the number one issue, a cost of living crisis, and yet you are the authors of policy that could add £90 a week to the bills of some of the people that you're persuaded to vote for you, then don't be surprised if it's rather difficult for you. What's striking about the expectation management that Labour have done is that actually, as late as last night, it tilted in the other direction. They were nervous about Selby and Ainsty in North Yorkshire, given the colossal majority they had to try to overcome, and they were expecting that they would win in Uxbridge, whilst being aware, and they had been aware all the way through this campaign, of how damaging the ultra-low emission zone policy was for them. And Keir Starmer had found himself, in fact, had put it directly to him just a couple of weeks ago, in a really tricky position on this, because he had his Labour mayor of London saying one thing, his Labour candidate in Uxbridge saying something else, and he was